Hi, this is Sandy. We are still working on watercolor and we're going back to the basics, but I want you to have fun with it. So last time we did the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. This time we're going to go to the secondary colors. We're not putting it on a wheel because I think people get stressed out when they think I've got to do it right. I've got to have it positioned on the wheel. We're just having fun with it. So let's go. I'm ready to start. I'm going to go over a few things that we've already been over. This is the Master Touch watercolor paper that you can get at Hobby Lobby. And so I'm not working on really expensive watercolor paper. This is what you can normally get. But remember, I wanted to work in the same size that I had last week. So that was just folding this in half and getting a good crease on it. Then fold it in half the other way, get a very good crease on it. And I'm doing that a couple of times. Then I'm going to blow on it, just the edge. Nice hot air. And I'm going to hold this one down and pull with my left hand. Now I've got a nice tear. It isn't a blunt cut. I like those better. But I wanted you to see again how I tore the paper. Okay, these are our primary colors from last week. It was the Hansa yellow medium, the Perylene red, and the French ultramarine blue. And we talked about those last week. We got lots of different colors going on with it. And we were trying to make our secondary color. The secondary color is the colors that happen when you mix the yellow and the red, and the yellow and the blue, and the red and the blue, and the blue and the yellow. I think I said that before. Now that's when we're getting our secondary color. The reason we started with the colors we did is because these colors will make these colors. Now, when I pull this one out and I use it, I should be able to come up with that color. Why is it important when you want to work with the same color? The reason here is that the colors are blending together. And if the colors blend together, you know what color you're going to need and how to go back and add more color to it. Remember that these are mostly transparent and we could go on top of the other colors. This picture here is using only these colors here. The reason we got the colors we did when it mixed is the mystery, basically, of what happens when you mix your colors. If we mixed these colors and then we pulled in a whole different color red, that whole different color red isn't going to look good on here. So we're controlling the colors that we're using to make them harmonize together. We know that these colors here are going to be harmonious. One's not going to stick out on the other one. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's go ahead and let's open up our colors that we've gotten. Now, believe it or not, I had all of these colors in my paints, but I went ahead and I ordered the same amount because it was such a good price for 3, as opposed to me buying it one by one. All right, I'm going to put my Undersea green in here. And I'm going to put my burnt orange here. Do you see how little bit I had to use of this? And I'm going to put some of that violet right here. Okay, now I'm going to get a new piece of paper and I'm going to play. Got my water and my brush, got my Sharpie, and I want to see how transparent these colors are again. So I'm going to draw my black line. The reason I use Sharpie is because Sharpie is oil-based. And once it's down here on paper, if I put water over it, it's not going to come off. Sometimes you get some markers that are watercolor markers, or I'm not even sure what else they're called, but they'll smear when you use them or when you put water on them. We don't want something that smears when you put water on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's use this Undersea green. And I'm just putting a little bit of water in here. And once again, I'm going to try and keep my water so it doesn't get all muddy. Okay, here I go, Undersea green. Okay, well, let's see, we got that last week. Let's try to mix that one up. So here we've got our ultramarine blue. And put some out here like that. Rinse out my brush. I'm going to go into the yellow. Drop it out. Well, that got kind of yellow, so let's go back into the blue. Now I'm just going to drop it at the sides. I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to let it run. Remember, this was one way that I said that we could mix these colors. The other way that we could mix these colors is to actually do the mixing. Get some of the colors up. Put some in the little bowl. Go into the yellow. I'm going to use the edge of my brush just to mix that around. Okay, now let's see how we did. Not too bad. Okay, now, why would I want to have a color that I can, once again, control and mix like this, or a color like this where I couldn't mix it? Sometimes when we're doing stuff, we might want to just put the color down. And let's say I need to deepen this color. I need to give it some life. Right now that looks pretty flat. What happens if I take that blue here and I lay it on the edge of this green? Okay. Now I'm going to take that yellow that goes into that green and I'm going to lay it on the other edge. Now I'm going to let them mix. Now this paper that I'm using doesn't hold a lot of water, so this mixing gets kind of difficult. But as you can see, I've used the colors that went into this, and I've made it a little 3D. I made it look like it has life. It's not a dead color, a flat color. If I'm doing a watercolor, I want to make sure that my colors don't get flat like that. There's nothing worse than having a painting and it's really boring because there's no action going on within the watercolor. We aren't letting the color and the water work. Okay, so now that's the greens, but let's try. And this time I'm going to put down my yellow. And then I'm going to put the edge over here with the blue. Now I'm going to take that green and put that on the other edge. I'm going to let it mix. That's kind of neat. I like that. So remember last time we did a wash and we put a primary color and a primary color, and then we let them mix together. Basically, we're doing the same thing right here, but we're adding that third color. And that's going to work because we are controlling the mix. We know what our colors are going to do. So I could take another piece of paper and I want to get it wet, so I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush. You can either get this wet, I'll do one side that I get wet, and I'll do the other side that I don't get wet. Okay? So this side I'll get wet, and I'm going to use my Undersea green in it. I'm just putting this paper down, or this color down. See how wet that is? It just wants to run. I'm not really telling it where to go. Doesn't really matter. I'm just putting it in here because I know that all I've got to do is move that water around and it's going to be fine. Maybe I think that needs a little more color, which is, I can do that anytime. There we go. I can add water at any time. Okay, now the other side, I'm going to take my blue. I only chose blue because it's sitting there. This is pretty wet, but it's not as wet as this side. Okay, now where it's dry in the center, I'm taking plain water and I'm just going to tell them, be friends. And then I'm going to lift this up and let it run. I'm not getting a lot of interesting mixes here, am I? This green up here looks really flat, and this blue looks really flat. So I'm going to just put some green down here like this and see if I can't make it mix a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm getting some good going. Okay, now, what else do we need here? We need this yellow. Okay, this is what I call throwing paint, which means it's going to be all over me. Yep, it's all over my red sweater. And it's going to be all over the paper, and it's going to be all over the table. My blinds might be covered, so you got to be careful what you're doing over there. Protect your stuff. Okay. See that? That's just a little water that got there. Well, now it's my finger. We're going to let this wash dry. And we're going to work on another color. And what did I say? Got to be careful. Protect your stuff. Okay, let's go back to this piece of paper. Now, let's work on this orange. I want to get a little wetter there. A little more water in here. Okay, there's the orange. I'm bringing it on. This right here is the orange that we mixed up last week. It's very close. And I think this is called Quinacridone Burnt Orange, one of my favorite colors. So how did we get that? Let's review. First of all, I want you to notice, do you see the way I have this brush here? It's laying up here. It's not sticking in the water with its hair down and getting bent. I've taken some of the water off. I've laid it down. I don't want to have that sitting in water. Okay, so let's get that yellow. There's the yellow. And let's get a little bit of that red. And let's put it on the edge of that. Notice I'm not polka dotting, but I'm not drawing a line. Draw here, and then maybe I'll come there. Okay, then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to let it run. I'm trying to get a deeper color of that. We can make a deeper color, or we can just take some more of this orange here and we can put it at the edge. Or we can mix it up. But we mixed it up last week, so I'm not going to do that this week. But let's try that orange, the actual orange. Put it down here. Rinse your brush. Go over to your yellow. And we're going to just let some of that yellow float in. Go over to that red. On the other side, let some of that red float in. Pick it up, going to let it run back and forth. I want to get some movement in here. By using these three colors, we've given it depth. This was the flat. No matter how much orange we added to that, it still looks flat. This has depth in it. A lot of times that's what we need in our paintings. So let's go back and let's do another wash with another piece of paper. Okay, so I've picked up my bigger brush, got my paper out here, and I'm going to do just like I did with the green. I'm going to wet this orange down, or the orange side down, with some water. And I know you really can't see this. It isn't puddled. It's still flat. It's just shiny. Okay, come in and get some orange. Drop it in there. I want this wet. Okay, that's nice and wet. Now I'm going to take the red on the drier side, and I've got to get this red nice and wet in here with the pigment. Come over here and I've got some red all laid out. Okay, now I'm going to take some clean water. That's clean water. And just get the center wet and tell it to mix. Did you see how I put down my brush? That's the where your brush goes. Okay, I think I need some more red in here. That means I need more pigment. There. I like that better. Now it's still kind of flat. We've got red flat, we've got orange flat. I'm going to put some orange on top of here just because it needs to mix. What I really need is some yellow to make it pop. Okay, once I've got the yellow in, pick it up, move it around. You see in my white paper underneath here? That's protecting my table. Now that orange looks exciting. I can take my other brush and I can flick some orange back on here. I can take some of that red, flick some red on here. And I'm going to get just some plain old water, and I'm going to flick it in. And I want you to look what happens when you flick. And I say flick, but I'm just taking the brush and tapping my finger when you tap water on top of that color. Okay, this is another wash that we've done. We know what happens when we mix the orange and the red. It isn't flat anymore. It's got life. Okay, let's go back to our basic paper here. I'm going to wipe my under paper off. And let's mess around with that purple. Okay, I'm not even going to draw the line this time. Okay, here's the purple. Straight purple. Whoa, that's dark. I got a lot of pigment with that one. Not a lot of water. Okay, so I'm going to put my red or my blue down and see if I can't come up with that color again. Now I'm going to get some red. Go along the edge. Pick it up and let it run. Now, you know when you were a kid and you had crayons and you looked and there was red violet and blue violet. And then there was violet. Violet was equal mixes of both colors. Need some red over here. And blue violet was when it was a little more bluish than it was violet. Oh, I think we're getting the color. There we are. A little bit red yet. I think I need to go just more blue and I'll have it. That's pretty close, so I'm going to stop right here. Depending on how much pigment we use, it's going to be hard to get that deep, deep color. Let's go ahead now and let's go into the violet. And let's add red on one side. And blue on the other. Okay, so our purple here, our violet, what's it called? Carbazole violet is a very flat color. There's not any depth to it. It's just purple. The color we mixed on the paper, it doesn't have that deep purple like this does. It's more interesting. But here we used the purple and then we enhanced it with our red and the blue that we knew made that purple. And we come up with this. So once again, we can do a wash. And I'm going to do it the exact same way. All right, I'm getting my paper wet. Just on this side. This is the side I'm going to put my purple in. I'm not putting polka dots. I'm not going like this. And look at the difference in the color. That's where you see your differences. I don't want that separation of the color. So I'm going to really let this run together. Maybe that's a little bit too much water. Okay, now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put, you know, we've started with blue every time. Let's start with red this time. Get it mixed in here good. Get some water in there. And I'm going to just, this is dry over here, so I'm going to have more water to make it run. Rinsing my brush, getting some clean water, and now I'm going to tell them, now you can mix. Here we go. This is what I call playing with color. Okay, now let's go into this blue and I've got my brush flat and I'm just going to tap the top of it with my finger. I know this paper is kind of curled up here, but look at how exciting that purple got when I put that blue on top of it. Didn't do much over here. So I wonder what will happen if I take some of that purple and put it over here. Oh, that got all over me. That's really pretty. What would happen if I take and I get some of this red and put it on there? Okay. Let me see. Now let's sit it up and let's let it move. As the paint dries, it develops little spots that don't want to move. And especially where I'm holding on to this paper, I'm taking up all of that paint and the water. Okay, now, like we did the last time, I've got just plain old water, and I'm going to flick. Going to put this aside to dry. I'm going to do it so that it's flat, not turned over. Okay, we have played with color. We've discovered what happens when we take those 3 new colors and we put them together and we experiment with them. We look at this one. This is almost dry. That was our first wash. If we were painting something, a landscape, and we use this green to make all the grass look the same, because we all know grass is green, it isn't the truth. It would look flat. But if we took the green that we made for this and we put it in with the blues and the yellows, our grass would take on a different shape. Let's look at the orange and the yellow, or orange and the red. We started out with orange. If we were making an orange or an apple, and we put orange down, and that's all we painted was the orange wouldn't look real. It would just look like it's sitting there. But if we added our colors in that made that orange, we would see a different shape. We would see the roundness. We would see the shadows. We would see highlights. But we use the same colors. So when somebody says, your primary colors are here, your secondary colors are there, and this is what happens, your primary colors aren't necessarily the same as every other primary color. It's what you choose to be your primary colors. When you do the secondary colors in it, it's what those 3 primary colors that you have make. It isn't that there is a correct primary color or secondary color. It's that it's your primary and secondary color. So when we go back to this wash right here, we used our primary colors. We ended up getting our secondary colors. Now we also got something else happening here. And next week, or next lesson, we're going to talk about that and why we put it in a wheel shape. Okay, so I want you to play and have fun. We are not wasting paper here. We can do stuff with this here, and we can go through that later. So play, look at your colors. I want you to know what happens when you add more red to yellow or more blue to purple. You've got to know those things. Have a good week.